one of the things that comes up a lot is and how people many times they take the concept of something that is described of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they'll take it literally, right? And even the most literal of scholars won't necessarily look at things just plain literally. They also look at the contextual use of it and how that applies to us now, and even also how it was applied then and how that applies to us now.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not the literal issue.
Okay.
It's context.
One of the things that I look at, and from my perspective, what I understand, I look at hadith in similar ways to how people would look at a historical account, right? You don't look at just one person's perspective. You look at multiple perspectives to get a three-dimensional image of what took place. And then from there, you get a real idea of what's happening, what the context is, what the situation is, and what you can pull from that, and how you can take what's been pulled from that and apply it today. Is it the same way when it comes to hadith?
It's not exactly the same, but you're on the right track. Okay. So we're not talking about different perspectives here. What we're talking about is, in order to understand what the Sharia intends, and I don't like to actually use the word intend. Maybe it's not the best word, because that would kind of give the connotation that
the Sharia is alive.
No, not that. The connotation that the Sharia intends something and it's unable to do it. It might be unable to do it, but the Sharia fully and effectively communicates what it intends.
Okay.
But the thing is, in order to understand the Sharia, or what the Sharia intends to convey to us, we can't look at one part of one. We can't look at it without just piecemeal.
Okay.
Right? We have to look at it as a whole. So when it comes to the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ, we don't take one hadith and just run with it.
Okay.
Right? And we have to look at all of the hadith and the sunnah together to get a complete picture of what the Sharia is. That's why the life of the Prophet ﷺ as a whole, we look at it as a whole.
Yeah.
We don't just take one instance or one occasion and put everything else aside and draw conclusions and make life decisions and give fatwa, which is the issue. Sometimes people give fatwa or based off of, I'm not saying scholars, but laymen especially will give fatwa based off of one hadith.
But even scholars of the past have changed their opinions because there was other hadith in relation to it that were presented that gave a more nuanced understanding of the situation.
Exactly. Look, I'll share with you one of the things that we talk about in the seminar.
Yeah.
The issue of simplicity versus beauty, or expressing our beauty, or showing our beauty. So, one of the things that people often say when it comes to this seminar, and people always have these one this one hadith. With every seminar of mine, there's this one hadith people often quote to you. I remember with Fiqh of Chillin, we talk about laughing and joking, and people often be like, oh yeah, you're talking about laughing and joking? What about the hadith of the Prophet said, if you knew what I knew, you would laugh very little and cry a lot.
Okay.
Right? And so, that's just one hadith. You have to look at all of the hadith together. So with this seminar,
even with that context, right? You talk about laughing. There was this hadith of Rasulullah where the companions ask about Allah, and he describes Allah as someone as one who laughs. And the companions are like, wait, Allah laughs? He's like, if we have a God that laughs, then we can expect nothing but good from them.
Yeah.
So it's just
exactly. So yeah, you can once again you can look at the ayat that mention the mercy of Allah and only talk about that.
Yeah.
Or you can talk about the anger of Allah and only talk about that. And it's when you look at everything as a whole, you realize that perfect balance between love, hope, and fear.
Yeah.
Right? That's what. So likewise with these issues as well. So in this context, beauty versus simplicity, the hadith that people often quote in this seminar is, you're supposed to be simple in your clothing.
Okay.
Right? You're supposed to wear simple clothes. What is this hadith? Well, we have the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he said, "Ala tasma'un, inna al-badhada min al-iman, inna al-badhada min al-iman." Listen. Simplicity is part of faith. Simplicity is part of faith. Okay. People say, here, look. You see the Prophet ﷺ saying, you got to be simple, right? You can't. Why would you want to wear these fancy clothes? Why would you want to wear clothes that make you stand out, for example? Just be simple.
Well, you can stand out because you can be a stranger.
Yeah, that's another issue, right? But this hadith, what people don't understand is what's happening around this hadith.
Okay.
So, for example, if you just look at the rest of this, at the very beginning of the hadith,
Yeah.
what we find is that the narrator tells us the Prophet ﷺ was witnessing some of the companions talking about the dunya, the worldly life,
Yeah.
right? And they're like mentioning in a way that Prophet ﷺ felt that maybe their hearts are getting too inclined towards worldly pleasures.
Okay.
And so then the Prophet ﷺ says, listen, like hold on, simplicity is part of faith.
Okay.
Like don't forget that, simplicity is also part of faith. And so if you look at the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, you find that balance, right? Because you have hadith that say, Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. And this is part of that sunnah, that push and pull,
Sure.
right? Targhib wa tarhib, right? And just like with any educator or anybody
Is that what that means? Push and pull? Targhib versus tardeeb?
Yeah.
What?
Targhib and tarhib, it's enticement, right?
Okay.
Versus, it's reward versus punishment,
Okay.
right? So we find that, depending on a person's situation, even any educator, any parent, anybody, they know that you have to push and pull.
Okay.
If you find somebody going one direction, you pull them in the other direction. You find them going the other direction, you pull them in the other direction.
It's about helping individuals and oneself maintain a balance in life.
And so when you look at the evidences together, what you find is a balance.
Yeah.
And so we learn that even as a Muslim, even if you have the best clothes in the world, you have the most money or whatever, sometimes you should be simple in the way you dress. Just so your heart doesn't get too inclined. Your heart doesn't get consumed by the dunya. Does that mean you have to always be simple? No.
Right.
But it means that you look for that balance.